my point here is biology's where the game is at. And so what is biomimicry? It's a great book by Janine Benyus. Paul Stamets has worked with look at a book called Mycelium Running by Paul Stamets. Great fungus guy. He's a fun guy. And you're all a bunch of fun guys and fun gals here as well, right? And he worked with the Department of Transportation in Washington State. They took 4 10-yard dump loads of wood chips. They put 55 gallons of diesel fuel, tossed it like salad dressing in each one. So they were all the same everything, controlled, right? One they left as a control, one they put a bacteria in, one they put a chemical in, and one he put mushroom spawn in. And they put a tarp on each and they let them sit for a couple months. They came back, they pulled the tarp off. The control was black, nasty, funky, the bacteria one, the chemical one. They pulled the tarp off the one with the fungus. He didn't tell them what kind of fungus, but they knew. There were oyster mushrooms, the kind you eat if you eat oyster mushrooms, biggest dinner plates erupting out of the entire pile. They just left them sit for months and months. The oyster mushrooms were there. Flies came to lay their eggs in. Seeds blew onto the pile. Birds showed up, dropped seeds in. Worms came there. And that pile of 55 gallons of diesel fuel tossed in wood chips turned into a black mountain of pure humus full of worms and insects and plants and created a full ecosystem because the fungus broke the hydrocarbon apart and turned it into food to feed ecology. We could put myco-remediation systems in these urban areas to myco-remediate a lot of the urban issues. Lead, there's a whole lot of work looking at lead-contaminated soils and fungus right now. So it's a long-winded answer to say, bring biology in. As a biologist, I'm a pro-lifer. All life. I want all 5 kingdoms of life to party in this game here. Yes, sir?
I'm just wondering if you've been exposed, working with some of these active bio-based systems, to resistance actually from the ecologist side of using some of these things. The argument goes something like, black water treatment opens up new areas for growth, because currently with septic systems in the county of LA, for instance, in certain soil types, you can't perk because they're not stable. You introduce transmatter into black water, suddenly that hurdle's gone. In the realm of sort of estuary type treatment, if we combine that with a limited amount of freshwater-based bio but active treatment, BMPs, then suddenly we're introducing the notion that therefore the polluting upstream that's contributing maybe is okay, or we can work around it by converting these saltwater systems into freshwater. Are you exposed to much of that? Kind of
Did folks hear that at all? Basically asking about, to the degree of what experience do I have in promoting these biologically based integrated systems, whether they're for wastewater or other treatment. Has there been blowback, if you will, from
excuse to pollute?
Or the environmental groups that say they don't want to even support the implementation of these technologies because then it's a growth inducement. It can facilitate that. And I would say I absolutely have experienced that a lot. And in Sonoma County, the area I live on is called the Farallons Institute. Used to be in the 70s and 80s. And they were trying to do rainwater harvesting off your roof, compost toilets with gray water systems. And you know who was? It was the land use planners and the general plan zoning ordinance folks who were using water supply and wastewater disposal as a growth mechanism to limit growth. And I think what a lot have learned is proper planning is best done in advance, is the phrase I'm most interested in, right? And that we should have proper planning mechanisms for growth according to a whole suite of factors, and that water supply or wastewater disposal shouldn't be the primary levers that are the drivers for limiting growth per se, that undermine other planning processes of determining what carrying capacity for that area would be in a growth model. And to not allow biology to show up here is a problem. But as an excuse to pollute, absolutely not. We should go to the source of the pollution and then work with those folks to... It's always best, and as far as I can tell, most cost-effective, to start at the source. Go to the headwaters, and trying to clean stuff up way downstream is going to be harder. It's going to be harder to get to. It's going to be more expensive. You're going to have to build bigger systems. If you're trying to control a bullet coming at you, It's a lot better, instead of putting on a vest, to go to the trigger side and get your hand off the trigger than try to deal with the impact, metaphorically here, right? Go to the trigger of the source and control it at the source if you can. But there are people who are trying to lever this stuff as ways to fight development. And I just think there should be other tools to do that.